The anime begins in a small town where we see how people despise the demi-humans. Here we meet our protagonist, Vanessa, who is in charge of managing the merchandise. But unlike the other humans, he does not discriminate against the other species. He tells the person in charge of the cargo that everything is ready, although more goods might be added later, and he gives him some money to go eat while they are waiting. But at that moment, the rest of the people look at him like a weird upon seeing how he acts with those disgusting creatures. The demi-human refuses to accept his money because they are demi-humans. But Vanessa gives it to him anyway, because he has him waiting in that place, and it's a way to compensate him. Besides, there's nothing wrong with him being a demi-human. Just then, Queen tells the demi-human to take it easy and go eat, because Vanessa doesn't take no for an answer. In that case, he accepts, and happily tells the rest of his workers to thank him, and they go to eat. But the rest of the people continue talking trash and calling him a hypocrite, but he doesn't care. Why not get along, no matter what they are? Queen doesn't think the same. However, in the capital, many people think the opposite. Just then, Vanessa is startled to see that his body begins to glow, and he disappears out of nowhere. And we discover that he was chosen as a hero candidate and is summoning number 198. He asks where the hell he is, and a priest welcomes him to the magical kingdom of Klyrot. Vanessa is confused and explains to him that he is just a merchant and doesn't understand what he means by hero candidate. However, the priest ignores him and explains that he is there to help them in their battle against the Dark Army. This has become so cliché that it just makes you want to throw a flip-flop at them. According to their ancient traditions, they summon people to fight the army for them. Then they proceed to examine his abilities with a crystal orb, and upon doing so, they mention to him that in exchange for appearing at level 1 in that world, the gods bless him with exceptional abilities, powers that normal people couldn't obtain no matter how much they train. It is called a divine revelation, but the wolf woman is shocked and scared to see that Vanessa does not have a divine revelation and has the typical statistics of a common, ordinary person. Everyone is disappointed to see that he is another failure, and an uncomfortable Vanessa asks them to send him back to his world. However, just then, everyone is surprised to see that right next to them, they had summoned a hero with powers worthy of a legendary hero. He is only level 1, and this bastard has 999 in all his stats. Everyone is euphoric for him, while Vanessa is ignored in a corner. In a change of scene, we see the king naming the blonde guy as his savior hero, while the protagonist is in a corner and feels frustrated because no one pays attention to him, and they don't even deign to send him back to his world. He observes his surroundings better and thinks that he really must be in another world since he had never heard the name Klyrot, but he must do what he can to get them to send him back home. In a change of scene, the guards put him in a carriage and give him a treatment, and we see that they didn't send him back to his world because the portal from which he was summoned is already closed and they can't open it again. And as compensation, they will send him to a special place to live peacefully in the Besa forest in the north of the kingdom, but he is forbidden to speak about that matter. Vanessa tries to talk to the coachman, but he refuses because he has orders not to talk to him. Although Vanessa insists because he just wants to know more about that world, he asks him if he is perhaps a slave in the service of the king, since in his world that was the relationship between humans and demi-humans. Although the lizard man answers that he comes from a horrible world, because in that world, no matter what race you are, everyone is treated equally. Vanessa apologizes and asks about the Besa forest. Although the lizard man ends the conversation and closes the window to make him stop insisting, the protagonist resigns himself to getting information and thinks that maybe that world isn't so bad, Dark Army and all. Thus the days passed, and after 20 days of travel, they left him right in front of the Besa forest. They give him a magic bag by request of the king and explain that in it he should have enough money and food to live comfortably for a while. After that, he says goodbye, but before leaving, he advises him to leave that place if he doesn't want to die. Although despite his recommendation, where would the protagonist go without having any idea where he is? Seeing what is inside the bag, he observes that it has construction magic for a house, clothes, food, weaponry, farming tools, and enough money. He takes out a sword to be prepared and notes that, just like in his world, there are also some slimes, although in his world they aren't so bad, and he doubts they will attack him, but he doubted very badly because these launch themselves at him. Luckily, he defeats them easily, but his weapon breaks in a single blow. Vanessa levels up, and hold onto your seat, because just by leveling up once, his stats shot up to infinity. He doesn't understand what that symbol means, but this kid does know, and this guy is completely broken. And now he is able to activate the voice guide. Upon activating it, it informs him that by leveling up he can use new abilities without needing to open the windows, but a large number of them open for him. His magic bag was enchanted with location tracking, monster attraction, and forced recovery, which is why Vanessa understands why the slimes attacked him. He understands that it was a trap by the damned king who wants him to die once and for all, but the voice guide asks him if he wants to remove the spells from his bag. He is surprised to discover that he can remove them and easily eliminates them, while he wonders, what the hell does that damned king intend? Although it's better not to worry about that, the first thing is to find a safe place. But when trying to enter the forest, The voice guide warns him that the forest has a high concentration of malice and causes too much damage to humanoid races. It asks him if he wishes to purify it, and the protagonist, because they sent him to live in that place anyway, uses it, and it consumes a third of all his magic, and we see how he incredibly purifies the entire damned forest, and after doing so, he levels up like crazy, spamming the pop-up window. On the other hand, in the kingdom, the king's daughter scolds him for being very cruel. The hero candidate couldn't return to his world because of him, and instead of helping him, he expelled him to the base of forest, and it is said that the Dark Army is located there. But the king answers him that he is just a waste of a human, and it's best that he dies in that place. Just then, a priest informs him that it has been confirmed that someone used purification magic, the highest level of sacred magic. The king believes it must have been the blonde hero, and surely he is already finishing off the Dark Army. He didn't expect him to get that magic so soon, but he supposes he has a unique talent, and that he made a very good choice, although the priest answers him that it's actually not the location where the hero is, but in a distant forest to the north. On the other hand, the Yakri, Banasa reached level 367 and has no idea how because he didn't defeat any monsters. He thinks that maybe in that world you level up just by using magic, and he notices that the symbol is still there. He deactivates the level notifications to not be confused and asks the guide how much mana he has left, although he observes that it recovered very quickly and thinks that it's surely because he doesn't have much magical capacity. The damned guy is God and doesn't have a clue about all his power. He wants to enter the forest, but he doesn't know if his magic purified it well, and since he is forbidden from living in the city, he has no other choice. However, the guide recommends he use shape-shifting, and that way no one will know him and everything should go very well. And he can even choose a gender, and Vanessa transforms into a busty waifu with a tremendous rear end, although then he gets more serious and takes a more convenient form. That way, he will be able to enter the city and no one will know that it's Vanessa. He can even teleport and appears in the royal capital in an instant. He mentions that in his old world, only the best use that spell, and he tries to use his magic to teleport to his world, although obviously it wasn't going to work. He thinks he must generate money to live well and heads to the center to register with some guild, although it will be complicated to register when no one knows him. The guide gives him the address to go to the Adventurers Guild, and upon arriving, the receptionist gives him all the necessary information. The higher the rank, the better the reward. Furthermore, being registered, you can receive funds from the reserve and compensation. He thinks the guilds are the same as in his world and registers with the name Theo, the name of his dog in his old world, because he caught him off guard. The receptionist gives him his identification, and after that, he goes looking for a mission on the bulletin board, although he doubts he'll earn good money at that level. Just then, he hears a little girl asking for help to be escorted to the Bisa forest. She is desperately looking for an escort, but no one accepts her request because first, it's very dangerous, and second, it seems she doesn't have enough funds. They recommend that she wait for the army to eliminate the monsters from that place, but she asks worriedly when that will be, because her family lives very close and she wants to help them. However, they push her out of the way and Vanessa, well, now Philo, approaches and offers to accompany her, while the girl feels blushed upon seeing such masculinity. She informs him that she doesn't have much money, but Theo replies that it's no problem. Besides, he has been in that forest and they will arrive immediately with his teleportation magic, which leaves everyone in the guild impressed. They can't believe that boy is capable of using that magic. They think it's a lie. While he is surprised to discover that teleportation is not a spell for beginners. Just then, Bali Rosa, a royal knight, introduces herself to him and orders him to stay away from the girl. She says she will use teleportation magic, but he doesn't look like he can use such an advanced spell. She asks him what the hell he is plotting, while another weird girl mentions that he surely wants to kidnap, enslave, and traffic humans. A group of girls asks him what the hell he's plotting, while he, scared, didn't expect to attract so much attention from the castle people. He tries to clear up their doubts and informs them that his name is Frio, and he is an adventurer, and if they suspect him so much, they can accompany them. The girls are surprised and they go to an alley where no one can see them, but if he does anything suspicious, dun dun dun. Theo prepares and uses his magic to transport them all to the Besa forest, and upon arriving, the girls can't believe it. The mage of the group asks him if he is perhaps a great high-level wizard. However, Theo replies that he is just a novice adventurer, capable of using a little bit of magic. Bali Rosa apologizes for having been so discourteous, and the rest of the girls follow her example. Just then, the little girl approaches the forest and wonders how that happened. Fleo asks her what is going on, and the little girl answers that the forest's malice has disappeared, and she is completely sure that there was a great layer of malice enveloping the entire forest. Even now, she is incapable of perceiving the magical beasts, something that Foe tries to tell her was him, but the guide warns him that it is dangerous to inform a demon that he used purification magic. The protagonist feels strange, but just then, Bali Rosa apologizes for having involved him and asks him to move away, while they all prepare to attack the little girl. Theo is shocked to see what they plan to do, but Balirosa demands that the girl reveal her true identity. The guild warned them that a suspicious little girl was asking for help to travel to that dangerous forest, which indicates she is suspicious because the Dark Army is in that forest. Theo watches them worriedly and observes that the girl is defenseless. Although defenseless, she doesn't have a because she reveals her true intentions, shows her true form by transforming into a huge Fenrir, and introduces herself as Fenrris, sister of Fenrris of the Four Infernals, and she plans to devour them all. Her brother entrusted her with watching the enemy and looking for food, therefore they are going to die. She begins to contaminate all the air with her malice, leaving the girls defenseless, while they didn't expect to encounter a demon related to the Four Infernals. Fenris notices that the malice doesn't affect Fleo, but she prepares to finish off the girls before eliminating him. However, the protagonist manages to dodge her attack while thinking that he can't escape because he must protect the girls. He uses his teleportation magic to send them to the city of Clyote and barely manages to save them. Fenris asks him why he decided to stay. Does he perhaps want to become her food? However, Fleo thinks that he doesn't know the reason why they chose him, but he refuses to die without doing anything and prepares to throw all the spells he obtained at her. Foe dodges her attack and then counters her with a wall of stones to finally use gravity magic to incapacitate her. Fenrir is incapable of moving, and the system recommends that Theo use subjugation magic. However, he remembers his old world and refuses because he doesn't want to do the same thing that people in that world did with magical beasts. Fenrris tries to use her magic to free herself from the gravity, but no matter how hard she tries, she doesn't succeed. The system continues stubbornly recommending that he subjugate her, but Foe continues to refuse. Just then, Fenrir runs out of magic and surrenders, asking him to kill her once and for all. However, Foe lets her know that his intention is not to finish her off. Besides, honestly, he doesn't like to fight. He frees her from his gravity, which causes Fenris to be perplexed and asks him why he is doing it. She is a demon who fights against humans, so why let her go free? But Foe replies that he doesn't care what race she is. He doesn't want to kill anyone who has surrendered. Fenris is surprised to hear this and undoes her transformation, revealing a tremendous succulence. Theo turns to see her in her underwear and quickly covers her with his cloak. He asks her to promise that she won't fight against humans again, and if she does, then he will let her go wherever she wants. Just then, he remembers that in his magic bag, he has some clothes, and while he looks for something she can wear, she falls asleep due to the lack of magic. A little later, Flea observes the abysmal amount of magics he has and wonders why the hell he has such powerful magics. For her part, Fenris wakes up in the tent and, upon looking out, sees Theo. She couldn't do anything, although she is resistant to magic. She always thought that humans were a fragile race, and upon leaving the tent, she asks him if he perhaps applied healing magic while she was unconscious. Foe replies that he had to do it, and it seems it turned out very well. Fenris mentions to him that anyone in his place would have killed and skinned her, so now she swears to him that she will not fight against humans again, and given the immense power he possesses, she will now consider him her master and dedicate her life to repaying that debt. Foe tells her that it is not necessary, but she insists and begins to call him master. She will do everything he asks. She just asks him to let her stay by his side, although Fleo refuses because he doesn't want her to be his slave. Fenris gives him puppy dog eyes and begins to cry to convince him, although Theo continues to refuse. So Fenris applies the technique of toxic girls. If you abandon me, I'll kill myself. And Foe, with no other options, accepts so that this crazy girl doesn't kill herself. A little later, he confesses to her that he is not from this world and reveals that he was summoned as a hero candidate, but upon seeing that he was useless, they got rid of him and abandoned him in that forest. He shows her his true appearance and tells her that he changed it out of fear that the castle people would pursue him. He didn't know where to go or what to do with his life. Therefore, if she insists on following him, they will have very hard times. This guy definitely doesn't know what he's talking about. Fenris doesn't care and tells him that wolves have a rule, which is to live for those they recognize as their master. It doesn't matter who he is or where he comes from. She will be loyal to him for the rest of her life, and for that reason she asks him to let her stay by his side, and she throws herself at him when he accepts. On the other hand, in the royal castle, the king asks the hero what the hell happened with the siege. Why did he let them annihilate the squad that was supposed to defeat the Dark Lord? To which the pathetic hero replies that the soldiers were all useless. He tells him that they got scared and broke ranks upon seeing a simple magical beast, and when he realized it, they had already been wiped out. He did his best to save them, so he should thank him that they brought back some remaining soldiers. To which the king asks him if then it was all the soldiers' fault, and the hero replies yes. After he leaves, the king asks one of his soldiers to tell him everything, and he reveals that in reality the hero spent the whole time in the rear when he should have been in the vanguard, and he just spent the whole time yelling at everyone while blaming them, and many of the soldiers are dissatisfied with him. Just then we see that he is frustrated because he has been training for an entire month and yet his abilities haven't improved. In his current state, he can only face humans or mediocre magical beasts. This guy is pathetic. Just then, one of his maids calls him by the name Sui, and he is happy to have her company and takes her to spend the royalties' money. The next day, we see Theo and Fenrris in the city center. He mentions to her that he must register with the Adventurers Guild to earn some money. A merchant addresses Fenrris as Senora, and she feels a little strange. Theo comments to her that they might think they are married, and that's why he called her that, to which she quickly blushes, while Theo mentions that it actually wouldn't be a bad idea, since that way it would be much easier to travel without raising suspicions, although that's only if it seems okay to her, to which Fenrris doesn't hesitate to accept and tells him that it will be an honor to have such a strong husband. Theo tells her that it will only be pretend, but she doesn't give a damn and gets really into the role and begins to call him honey. Upon entering the Adventurers Guild, she mentions that humans use very strange things to store information, and Theo shows her that he also has one. She tells him that then they will match, and she blushes because she remembered that in her race, the marriage rite is for a couple to eat the bones of the prey they hunt, and that symbolizes the union. While Theo hopes that this crazy girl won't make him eat the bones, the receptionist asks her name and she almost messes up by trying to say her real name, but Fo intervenes and says her name is Eris. After that, she apologizes to him for almost messing up, but he replies that she shouldn't worry, and with that appearance he doubts she will be recognized. From now on, she must get used to living as if she were a human. But while they are talking, the receptionist makes an emergency announcement. She informs all the adventurers that a group of psychosos has been sighted in the north, and they are heading towards the city. Many are scared because, according to rumors, those beasts were responsible for wiping out the hero's army. The receptionist informs everyone that there is no rank limit, so anyone can participate. And to incentivize them even more, the reward for each bear will be multiplied by 10. Theo feels that it is a quite profitable job. However, they shouldn't get involved, to which Fenrris, now Riss, tells him that that task would be very simple for him, although he doubts his capabilities. However, she tells him that in that case she will take the job on her own, and thus demonstrate that he is stronger than he thinks, because she can handle those beasts and he was able to handle her. They teleport to the vicinity of where the Picusos were sighted, and observe that they are right next to the house provided by the guild. Riss prepares to go finish off the Pico Bears, and Theo decides to accompany her because he doesn't plan to let her fight alone. She tells him that they are both very strong, and her master would even be capable of defeating the Demon King. Just then, they hear some screams, and upon arriving at their source, they observe that they are the same pathetic female knights from before. Riss recommends leaving them there because they are weaklings, but Fo intervenes when they are about to send one to meet St. Peter, and with a single lightning attack, he fries a large group of bears, while Riss gets rid of the last one with a stomp. The girls, upon seeing him, are surprised and thank him for saving them again. They confess that they were worried about what might have happened to him, although they believed he would easily survive against a monster like that, a comment that offends Riss. B. Crozen asks him who the girl is, and Theo, to avoid suspicion, tells her that she is his travel companion, which provokes Riss to feel sad because this wretched man didn't say she was his wife. Just then, a much larger psychoso appears, but Riss uses the king's hack and knocks out the bear. The guys are surprised and she mentions that she doesn't know what she did either. That's the king's hack, baby. It's the king's hack. The bear surrenders to her, although they mention that they can't let it go free. Riss recommends making it her subordinate, but Theo corrects her and says it will be their pet, which leaves the girls shocked, seeing how they tamed a Pico Bear so easily. Riss mentions that those beasts are very ferocious, and taming one will be registered in their achievements. And to prevent it from attacking people, Theo uses his restriction magic, and to avoid causing panic, he transforms it into, I'll call it a bunnycorn, although in reality the ones causing panic are them by doing everything they are doing. Just then, Bali Rosa approaches him and asks him for a favor. And inside the house, she thanks him again for saving her. They introduce themselves properly, and we already know this one but not the others. This is Blossom, the sorceress is Villano, and the archer is Airy. Bali Rosa apologizes because she will ask for something very bold, but she asks him to become their leader. She tells him that, as he has surely heard, the bears wiped out the hero's forces and he refused to fight because he doesn't plan to face the Dark Lord until he gets trustworthy soldiers. So the king ordered them to strengthen themselves until they are at the same level as those beasts. Although, as he could notice, they weren't capable of defeating even one of these. F thinks that he himself doesn't even know how magic works, but just then, Yar gets angry with them for asking Mail to do something like that. Theo catches the signal and apologizes to the girls and reveals to them that although he told them before that she was his travel companion, she is actually his wife, which calms the beast down. He apologizes to the girls because he can't do it, because he just wants to live quietly with her, and the girls understand that they don't want to be disturbed. Although Riss, now much calmer, and I imagine and suppose it's because he clearly marked that he is her male, tells him that she thinks it's a good idea. He should lead those girls because she is his wife, and knows better than anyone how strong he is, and that he wouldn't abandon someone in trouble. And since she is his wife, she will accept whatever he decides because she is his wife. Theo accepts, although he lets them know that he isn't very good at teaching, and the girls, happy, thank him and hope to start right at that moment, although he also asks them to rent a place for them in that house because camping outside is very dangerous, which makes R jump for joy because they have several rooms and that way she can have the protagonist all to herself, sharing a room and bed. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Ulliminus informs the Dark Lord that Fenris's unit, which was in the Besa forest, was annihilated by purification magic. But it wasn't the work of the mages of Clyro, but by a single man. She asks what they should do, to which the Dark Lord replies that if there is a man with the magic capable of eliminating demons, they must find him and capture him at all costs. The next day, Fleo wakes up with Riss's penetrating gaze watching over his dreams. Scared, he asks her what she is doing in his room, to which she replies that it's something very obvious. They are married, and it's normal for her to be with him. Fleo remembers the previous night when she was inciting him to lie down with her to offer her body and soul. Although Fleo refuses and she is sad, she asks him if he has started to hate her. 2 days married, and the love is over. Fleo tells her that it's not that, but he likes to take things step by step to prepare himself mentally. Although I don't know what needs to be prepared when that is just pure. Fleo deserves 3 respective slaps. Chris mentions to him that human marital relationships are very complicated, but Foe remains firm in his decision. He goes to sleep in the hallway, but Riss reminds him that if the girls see him sleeping there, they will suspect their relationship. She pounces on him to take off his pajamas, but just then, Bali Rosa enters like a dog in her house and misinterprets the situation. In a change of scene, they begin with the girls' training, where we see that they turned out to be more pathetic than expected, although thanks to the instructions of Rhys and Fleo, they managed to… okay, forget it. What the hell is that? Definitely the only good thing these girls have is the plot. Fleo watches her flee desperately and mentions that it will be quite a challenge to train them. After that, they enable their rooms for them because Theo, with the reward from the bears, ended up buying the house. Besides, they will have to train them for a good while, and he can't allow them to keep sleeping on the floor. The girls are very grateful, but just then, Riss informs him that dinner is ready, although it seems that meat is still breathing. Theo tells her that he would prefer she cook the meat, although just then Bali and Rosa intervene to help them prepare it. Just then, Riss thinks that fresh meat is better raw, and the bunnycorn is enjoying it. After a while of preparation, the food is ready and the girls are surprised and ask Theo if he perhaps prepared it with magic. Although he replies that he likes to cook and Bali Rosa helped him a lot. She didn't expect that his cooking skill would be far superior to his skills with the sword. She confesses to them that in her house, the only noble thing they really have is their last name, because since they can't afford to hire cooks, she had to learn to cook her own food. Everyone begins to eat, but Riss complains because vegetables are only for weak, low-class insects and a true beast only eats meat. Although after finding out that Fleo was the one who prepared it, she decides to eat it, and upon tasting it, she is delighted. Fleo recommends she try the meat, and upon doing so, she is surprised because she didn't expect that just by applying heat, it would change its flavor so much. Flo mentions to her that Bali Rosa prepared the meat, and she asks if it is perhaps overcooked, but Rhys, embarrassed, replies that it is quite good, and that next time she will cook. After a while, the guys take a group of boars to sell at the guild, but they start to become the news of the moment and all the adventurers wonder how they managed to hunt so many. But while everyone watches them, Riss asks Theo if she could take a walk through the city while they weigh the meat. He replies yes, and asks if he can accompany her, although she refuses because it's a personal matter. Just then, Leolit asks Theo to speak for a moment, and he goes to his office, while we see that Riss is interested in learning to cook. Leolit, for his part, tells Theo that the guild and the whole city are talking about his great feats and informs him that he received a request for him to put his strength at the disposal of the hero. And the king himself said he would name him an honorary knight if he accepted. He mentions to him that he has never before seen 2 people take down so many rank magical beasts, and personally, he wouldn't like to let him go from the guild, but with his talent he can save the world, and an opportunity like that doesn't present itself twice. Frio thinks about it a little, but replies that he is not interested in the offer, and upon leaving the guild, he finds Riss looking like crap. Worried, he asks her if she perhaps faced some magical beast, but she replies that it's nothing serious, while remembering that the kitchen was a very formidable rival for her. Tomato she grabbed, tomato that exploded. The pinch of salt was a failure, and she ended up burning the pot and the whole building, but she is determined to learn to cook to win the love of her dear Fleo. On the other hand, Sui is enjoying the good life, and his companion tells him that in the Adventurers Guild, there has been talk of a warrior who is killing many high-rank magical beasts, and with his help, he could resume the battle against the Dark Lord. Suya replies that if that's the case, then they should bring him immediately to put him to work as his right-hand man. And a month later, a carriage from the castle arrives at Fleo's house, although he continues to refuse the castle's request. Riss comments that they don't give up, and in the course of that month they have already gone several times to try to recruit him. She mentions that she is going to start threatening them to stop bothering them, although Theo calms her and says that they are just doing their job. Just then he mentions that he must go see the girls' training, and from combat training, we see that they became farmers. Even Sai is also helping. Theo thinks that she puts more effort into the field than into her own sword training. Meanwhile, for her part, Riss tells the failed Legolas that she must practice her shooting with moving targets, but she refuses because she doesn't want to attack such adorable creatures. On the other hand, Foe gives Vellano a magic ring to increase her magical capacity and asks her to test it to see how it goes. After he leaves, she tries to change the ring's location, but Rhys is on the lookout and warns her not to even think about putting it on her ring finger. On the other hand, Bali Ross is attacked by a giant caterpillar and asks Fio for help, but Rhys easily gets rid of it and tells her to stop playing innocent because she should be able to easily defeat rank C magical beasts. She tells her that she is playing weak to try to steal her husband, but just then, they hear noise from the bushes, and we see that Olymanus is in them. At dinner, Race impresses everyone with the banquet she prepared, and she confesses to them that every time Fleo went to the guild, she took the opportunity to go to cooking classes. At first, she thought she could do everything with magic, but after a lot of effort, she managed to do it, and even enjoys it more than strengthening herself. And she prepared a special curry for him to win his heart on her teacher's recommendation. Meanwhile, Ulminas, outside, realizes that it is Fenrris. She wonders what the hell she's doing surrounded by humans, but out of nowhere, Fenrir appears behind her and asks her what she thinks she's doing. She makes her enter the house and asks her again, since she doubts that an aide so close to the Dark Lord is just passing by for a visit. Theo is surprised to discover who it is, and Ulminas, nervous, replies that she was just investigating the area. Rhys reveals to her that she now lives in that place and is married, which surprises Ulminas. She thinks that she seems like another person, nothing compared to when she was in the army. What is more intriguing is the human next to her, since he is very calm despite being with two demons, and not even with her evaluation. Magic is she capable of seeing his level, despite being able to see the Dark Lords. She mentions to them that that place is something new. Even the Bisa forest no longer has magical creatures, to which Theo confesses that it must be because his purification worked, shocking Ulminas, who quickly tells Rhys that that man is the cause of her brother Fengiril's death, since nothing has been heard of him and his forces after the forest's purification. Although Rhys tells her to shut up, and Theo, worried, asks her if she perhaps knew, and she even replies that only a few humans know how to use purification, so she assumed it could have been him. Her brother was a formidable wolf warrior, and he would surely hate for her to cry over his death. Besides, he was one of the four infernals, and it's his own fault for dying due to being incompetent. Fenris tells her that she decided to marry Theo because his power made her fall in love, and nothing will change what she feels for him. Although just then, the girls who were eavesdropping end up falling and tell them to excuse them, and that they didn't expect Rhys to be the famous Fenris. Ulminas is aware that Fleo is a threat to the Dark Lord's army, and now that Fenris is by his side, she is also an enemy. She asks Theo to face her to test the power that made Fenris fall in love, although he replies that he really doesn't think he has talent. Illuminus plans to get rid of everyone in that place, but Fenris intervenes and tells her that it's just an excuse to fight with him, but it doesn't matter because they are going to fight outside anyway. Using magic is permitted, and it will end when one of them surrenders, and Illumina jumps to attack him using a double spell to finish off both at the same time. However, Fleo easily gets rid of her magic and then uses crucifixion magic to capture her, and upon seeing that she can't do anything, she ends up surrendering. The next day, Foe apologizes to the girls for having hidden the truth from them, but he thought it would get him into trouble. If they want to report them to the castle, he will perfectly understand, to which Rhys lets them know that she swore loyalty to Fleo and is no longer part of the Dark Lord's army. Bali and Rosa reply that as knights they should report him, but now it is not necessary because Fenris is no longer their enemy. They have been talking about it among the four of them, and Rhys helped a lot with training in the last month, and no matter how useless they are, they can't betray someone who has helped them so much. But just then, R feels that something is approaching, and upon leaving the house, they observe that Ulminas is approaching with a large group of elite dragons. She informs them that she will let them live if they join the Dark Lord's army, although Theo is more excited to see real dragons. In his world, they also existed, but he never got to see one and only managed to trade with dragon scales. Ulamina feels indignant at being ignored and begins the attack, but Theo uses the sacred magic Celestial Hammer and annihilates a large group of dragons in an instant, while the rest flee for their lives. Lawson thinks that he should have thrown some tool at them to get the Dragon Slayer title, and Foe encourages her to try. He asks her to throw her tool, and upon doing so, he improves it with haste, penetration, and sanctification, splitting the neck of one of the dragons and managing to get the Dragon Slayer title. Seeing that, the girls crowd around to ask for his help too, but he apologizes because the dragons are already too far away. Meanwhile, we see that the Dark Lord observed everything that happened and never thought that a simple adventurer who isn't even a hero could use that kind of magic, and he prepares to take the next step. Now, Theo places a barrier around the house to know when a demon enters, and Rhys informs him that if that annoying cat comes to interfere again, she will take care of stomping her. Just thinking about her makes her angry again, but she is curious because Theo was very good with her when she came to attack them in that way, although he replies that it's not that he is good, and remembers the moment when Uluminous told him that he was the cause of Fenrir's death. Riss asks him what's wrong, but Foe avoids telling her anything. On the other hand, Blossom is delighted with her new title, while the girls watch jealously and can't believe she got it so easily. Villano teases her, saying that she is the legendary roast that cut off the dragon's head, while Bali Rosa separates from them and informs them that she will go hunt some magical beasts. The girls feel proud because she is very dedicated to her training, and Villano tells them that they also have to strive, although now we discover that in reality, Bali Ross is sad because she also wanted the Dragon Slayer title, since thanks to that title, a nobody could become someone of nobility, and that is every adventurer's dream. And even with that, she could recover the nobility her family lost and live in the capital again, as when her father was a knight. Just then, she is interrupted by this guy who informs her that he is looking for an acquaintance. Although Bali Rosa becomes alert because she sees that the guy is wearing light armor in such a dangerous forest as that. B. Rosa replies that she knows the person and asks if it is about Theo or his wife. But this guy, who curiously looks like the Dark Lord, tells her that he is looking for his wife, to which Bali Rosa points her sword at him and tells him that he must belong to the Dark Lord's army, and she doesn't need a woman who no longer has anything to do with them. Depending on his answer, she will end up facing him, to which he replies that he does indeed belong to the Dark Lord's army, but he just wants to know how Fenrris is doing and asks her to let her know that he would like to have tea and chat a bit about the past, to which B. Rosa leaves him alone and introduces herself to him, besides demanding his name. And he, before leaving, reveals that his name is Gusal. Just then the guys meet up with her and ask if she is okay, since they were scared because the anti-demon barrier had reacted. B. Rosa tells them everything that happened, and Riss mentions if he couldn't think of a better name because from afar they realized he was talking with someone who bore the title of Dark Lord. P. Rosa is shocked upon realizing that she was talking with the Dark Lord himself, and Riss tells her that his real name is Gol, but she is in panic because she drew her sword against the Dark Lord. The next day, he meets with Grizz and with Theo, who invites him in and plays along with the guy named Gosal. B. Ross, upon seeing him, is shocked, and what's worse is that they make her sit next to him. Dis asks him if he came to get revenge, to which the Dark Lord gets straight to the point and tells Theo that he would love to have him in his army, although Theo rejects his proposal. The Dark Lord asks him why, if he is a human, he isn't serving the king of Clyote, since he should desire his power. However, Oris lets him know that her husband is not interested in participating in the war. In the first place, he is not from that world, and secondly, he has no intention of participating in the conflict. Gol explains the reason for the war to him, and tells him that it began 500 years ago with the proclamation of the first Dark Lord. He tells him that the first one, like him, came from another world, and at that time the demons, oppressed by humans, began to follow him, which sparked the war between those who followed him. And the longer the war lasts, the more resentment accumulates. CR asks him why the hell he is telling him this, but Gol ignores her and continues telling him. He says that it is impossible to stop the war, and Foe asks him if he wants to end it. He replies that the ideology changes after 12 generations of Dark Lords, and he has no interest in dominating the world, but he is the Lord of the Demons and cannot allow a threat to them to fall into human hands. He recommends that Theo accept his proposal, although he remains reluctant to accept because he doesn't plan to take sides with either party. Gol continues exerting his pressure while Bali and Rosa ends up fainting from fear, and the girls watch hidden, although Theo remains very calm. The Dark Lord bursts out laughing and tells him that he is a very stubborn person, but he doesn't plan to give up on trying to recruit him. Before leaving, he thinks it's incredible that a human could remain so calm next to him, and it's not that he's talking about Frio. He thinks that Bir Rosa is a very interesting woman, although in reality she is stunned and doesn't know how the Adiash to react. The next day, she wakes up and remembers that after the commotion, she decided to go to sleep. Upon going downstairs, she apologizes to the girls, but upon arriving in the kitchen, she is stunned again to see the Dark Lord eating with the guys. He, upon seeing her, greets her and mentions that Fenris's food is very delicious, although she tells him to leave once he finishes eating and to stop insisting because her dear husband will continue to reject his offers. The Dark Lord just ignores her and tells Bali and Rosa to come eat with them, although they realize she's in her pajamas and goes to change her clothes. She ends up leaving the house hiding, but Gol was waiting for her outside and informs her that he wants to talk with her, although she runs away in fear and tells him that she has to train. And thus several days passed, and at every opportunity this crazy girl ran for her life, while the Dark Lord thought she was very dedicated to her work. Just then, one of the soldiers observes everything and informs the king that a demon has been frequenting the adventurer Fleo's house, and according to his spy's report, he has been entering demon territory. The king, angry, orders soldiers to be sent to attack him, thinking that Theo decided to join the Dark Lord. But the princess stops him and warns him that doing that could only push Theo further to join the Dark Lord in case the information isn't entirely correct. and she recommends first talking with him to find out what he thinks. This princess has much more reasoning than the poorly made defective of her father, but this brute only orders her to be quiet because she is not qualified to lead a nation. Just then the hero intervenes and informs them that he wants more soldiers, because if that adventurer doesn't obey, then he only has to force him. This guy doesn't know what he's getting into. On the other hand, the Dark Lord heads to Fleo's house again, although Uliminus tells him that it is very dangerous to go to that adventurer's house, although he replies that Fleo is much more tolerant than a certain pathetic king who refuses to listen to him, and if he can get him on his side, it would be very beneficial. Although Uliminus mentions to him that she and all the others continue to await his orders, but he replies that he is still thinking about when to mobilize his troops. He leaves quickly while Uliminus mentions that many of his soldiers have begun to criticize her lord for visiting that adventurer so much, and she wonders if that is really the only thing her lord is seeking. For her part, Bis asks her darling what he is doing, and he replies that he was thinking of selling some equipment he made with dragon scales, but he wants to keep testing to make one that is worth it because he wants his business to prosper to live off it. Although very surely a knife made by this guy could destroy an entire kingdom. Riss asks him if he is sure about his decisions, since if he worked for the hero as the king wants, he would now be earning a lot of money, and she asks him if he perhaps doesn't want to fight with the Dark Lord's army because of her. But Fleo replies that that is not the case, to which Riss replies that he is such a good person that she thought he was worried about that. However, Fleo answers that he is not as good as she thinks, but it's just that now that he knows he has a lot of power, he prefers to avoid unnecessary combat. Riss tells him that he is definitely a very good person, and she admires him a lot, but just then they are interrupted, and the archer informs him that the hero is looking for him. Upon meeting with him, he observes that he brought a large army to look for him. The hero tells him that he knows he is conspiring with the Dark Lord's army, but he will give him an opportunity to become his subordinate, or else he will tell them he is a spy for the army and kill him on the spot. Suya. He imagines that with that, he will instill fear in him and thus manage to recruit him. And it's no surprise because, with his great power, he would instill fear in anyone. He plans to become a legend of that world, and only has to defeat the Dark Lord, with him as his subordinate. Although Feo brings him down from the clouds and tells him that he doesn't want to join any side. He laments for him after having brought so many people to look for him, but he has no intention of siding with either. The hero replies that he is just a traitor who wants to die, but the girls tell Sui the tyrant. They inform him that Feo is no traitor, but he continues drawing his conclusions and accuses them of being traitors, although he informs them that he will forgive them as long as they help him convince that man to join him. Although Feo lets everyone know that he plans to go to another place because he doesn't want to get them into trouble. Reese supports his decision, and the girls ask him to let them accompany him. They mention that they were always told that demons were the enemies they must defeat, but since living with him and Riss, they began to doubt those words and began to wonder if it was really the right thing to fight against them. Besides, their worst mistake would be to follow someone who threatens innocent citizens, and if they did that, they wouldn't be able to look their father in the face again. The girls think the same, and Feo sets off and uses teleportation, taking the girls, the house, and all the cultivated fields with him, while the hero is shocked to see that he can use such a high-level magic, which even he hasn't been able to learn. Just then Goal arrives and, angry, summons his entire army to attack the magical headquarters of Clyro, because thanks to those damned miserable people, Fleo left that place. Uliminus, upon hearing this, gets excited and all the demons begin to mobilize. Meanwhile, for their part, Feo and the girls arrive at some lands near Hong, a city to the west of the capital. The girls are surprised because all the fields are with them, and Feo apologizes to Riss for having put her through all that, although she replies that it's not his fault. Besides, she will be fine as long as she can remain by his side. In that place, they doubt they can be found by the kingdom or by the Dark Lord, and all together they go to prepare a banquet to celebrate. On the other hand, the Dark Lord's army began to raze town after town. They inform the king that it is breaking through the defense networks one by one, and it is uncertain how long the northern fortress's barrier can hold, all while the pathetic hero is locked up in the southern fortress. The king orders that he be found immediately, while the advisors inform him that they must gather the kingdom's mages to cast the purification spell. However, there is a detail with that, but if they don't do it, the northern fortress will end up falling, and they cannot rely on that pathetic hero. They tell him it is the only way to win, but the king is too nervous to decide. On the other hand, Green informs the Dark Lord that the preparations are ready, and he tells Uliminus that it is time to retreat. However, she replies that now is the moment to exert more pressure, but he explains to her that at any moment they are going to use the purification spell and they cannot allow it to affect his soldiers. Uliminus sets off while the kingdom's mages begin to cast the purification spell together, and who would have thought that that disgusting king would also be collaborating? They manage to conjure and purify a large area of the kingdom. Meanwhile, for his part, Feo lives quietly in his house. R takes care of giving him very good attention, although this ox doesn't let himself be loved. While they were having tea, Fo informs them that he hasn't had much luck in any trade. Han has many shops, so he is checking them all to find the best bidder. First, he needs to do a trade study, to which Blossom mentions that she is already thinking of selling the vegetables from the farm because she can't stay there and live for free forever. While the archer mentions to him that she plans to breed horses, Fio informs her that she can use the stables in the back, but Bolano and Bali Rosa feel useless because they have no talent. Although Riz tells her that she doesn't have to worry because, as the wife of the pack leader, she has no problem taking care of useless people like them. Fleo gets nervous and informs them that they will divide the household chores, but they should strive to practice with the sword and with magic without having to worry about the household chores. For their part, the kingdom's high command thinks they managed to repel the demons thanks to their purification, but they have 3 months until the effect of it begins to fade. For the moment, they will be safe, since they cannot approach. However, the mages are unconscious from having used all their magic and will take 2 to 3 months to recover, including the king. Luckily, until he wakes up, the princess will take on her father's tasks, as declared by the law of Clyro. I have a feeling this girl will be much more competent than her father, because her first order as interim queen is to dismiss the pathetic hero. The nation is in danger, and instead of helping, he just locks himself away and plays dumb. One of the elders asks her how she plans to face the Dark Lord without the hero, or does she plan to summon more candidates, although they don't have enough mages to be able to do it, so she informs them that they are at a stalemate, and orders them to call the oracle to see what they can find out. Meanwhile, the hero, for his part, is stupefied because they threw him out of the fortress. Indignant, he informs them that they cannot disrespect him in that way when the king placed him in that position, but they just throw his things at him and ask him to leave while he continues to complain. At night, Fo tells Rish that she has done an excellent job since they moved, although she replies that she would do anything for him. Embarrassed, he thanks her because it must be very hard for her to live among humans, but even so, she does everything in the house. But upon realizing she was already asleep, he thinks that he felt alone in that world. But everything changed now that he has a job and a place to sleep. The next day, the girls inform him that they will take care of all the tasks so that they can go out together and enjoy, since they are married. Although Fio blushes at that proposition, Villano tells him that he doesn't have to blush because they are married, and Riss doesn't plan to lose the opportunity fallen from heaven. They walk around the city for a while, and upon leaving a restaurant, she lets him know that she wants to continue enjoying their time alone to the maximum. They go to the city market, and Fio asks her if there is anything she wants, since she is always doing all the household chores, and he wants to thank her with a gift. Fisk gets very excited because she has never received one before, and while they look for one, Fio ends up taking a brooch, and upon trying it on her, he tells her she looks beautiful. Upon arriving home, Riz continues contemplating her gift, while the girls wonder what the hell is wrong with her, because she seems like a little fool since they returned home. She only says that Fio gave her that brooch, and it seems they had a very good time. However, these crazy ropes feel envy. Upon sleeping, Risa gets into bed with Frio, and he gets nervous. He adjusts her and turns around again, although she hugs him again, preventing him from falling asleep. On the other hand, Suya gets rid of some guards and enters the castle vault in search of something that could be useful to him. His servant calls him Hero and asks what he is looking for, to which he replies that he wants to get something he can use against the Demon King. He asks why she continues to call him Hero, and she replies that it's because he refuses to lose that title, and when he recovers it, she will be delighted to continue serving him. Sui doesn't plan to live as a commoner in that world because he is the legendary hero, and it can't be possible that that ordinary man has magics that he doesn't possess. He needs even more power, and just then, he hears a voice speaking to him. Suya, nervous, asks where it is, but only he is able to hear it. The voice tells him that if what he desires is power, then he must free her, and just then it opens a secret passage and asks him to take out the sword. In exchange for that, it will grant him any wish. His assistant gets nervous because Suya is talking to himself, and he asks her if she can't hear it. His assistant lets him know that she can't hear anything, and just then the voice asks him if he is afraid. But he, angry, takes the sword and unleashes a tornado, and just then a genie named Hilla appears, who controls the origin of light and darkness. Although the pathetic Suya just stands there trembling, Hilla lets him know that she can grant him 3 wishes, to which Suya, with bad intentions and disgusting ambition, lets her know his wishes. The next day, the oracle meets with the princess and lets her know that she is surprised that the country with the most magic still believes in an oracle. The princess replies that they are currently in a very critical situation, and she wants to know how she can save her kingdom. Any clue helps, but however, while she is speaking to her, a sacrifice collar appears on her neck and on everyone present. The princess quickly orders the soldiers to capture the intruder in the basement, while the rest wonder, what the hell is that? The oracle reveals to them that it is a sacrifice collar, and there is a certain genie that places them on its victims. The princess tells everyone that some time ago, the kingdom of Clyret asked a genie for help to finish off the Dark Lord, but in exchange for its help, it sacrificed half the living beings on the continent. After so many sacrifices, the kingdom's lazy people joined their powers to seal it, and the seal is something very complicated. However, someone managed to break it. It was so complicated to take a damned sword out of a rock. Wow. Besides, he asked the genie for a wish, but it hasn't carried it out yet, or else they wouldn't have a head. The princess, worried, asks the oracle what she can do to get them out of that situation, to which she uses her ability and lets her know that she must find the true hero, who is already in that world. Everyone assumes it must be the adventurer the king tried to recruit, and the oracle informs them that he is to the west, and a sheep orders the soldiers to search all the villages and cities to the west, although the princess stops him because they can't divide the forces protecting the kingdom. Instead, she will go in person. Meanwhile, for his part, Fo shows a shield to a merchant, who is impressed to see that it is made with dragon scales. He mentions that he previously heard a rumor that a butcher received a lot of dragon meat, and Fleo replies that he has his contacts. The blacksmith plans to buy the shield from him, but in exchange, he asks him to please bring him merchandise from that secret contact. Fleo replies that it's no problem, and from now on, he will start bringing him all the weaponry he manufactures. He also asks who he could sell the products made with beast skins to, because he just moved and is looking for some merchant to sell his products. And having the help of a shop owner would reassure him a lot. The seller informs him that he would love to buy everything, but he is going to help him and introduce him to someone. The girls observe that Fleo has an enormous talent for trading. Not only did he sell the shield, but he also got a buyer. Reese tells Bali Rosa that Fleo used to be a merchant in his old world, and very surely he made very good deals. B. Rosa confesses to her that she is envious of her for having him as a husband, although Reese warns her not to even think of trying anything weird. Although Bali Rosa, panicking, tells her that she just wanted to find someone like him, and Reese tells her that she already has one. She has Gusald, who fell for her. While Bali Rosa is shocked to believe that the Dark Lord likes her, but just then Freo comes out and Riss congratulates him for selling his shield. He heads to Bali Rosa and thanks her for recommending that shop. They prepare to return home, and on the way Reese tells him that she thought he really enjoyed trading. Fleo tells her that it's because he is very good at it, although he is a little sad. He confesses that he is happy that he is successful, although it saddens him that they spend less time together. She asks him to try to go shopping together or go out like they did that day, at least from time to time, and Fio, to please her, replies that he will do it for her, but out of nowhere he receives an alert in the system, warning him that a genie is approaching, and it already appears behind him and introduces itself to him. We see that the first wish of the useless Sui was for it to kill Fio for having humiliated him, and it already prepares to attack him, but Fio's self-defense magic activates. However, Riss instinctively gets in the way, receiving the impact. Fleo is scared to see her, and just then Bali Rosa comes running, but Jaya attacks them again. However, it doesn't manage to penetrate Fleo's defenses. It notices that it can block normal attacks and tries something else, while Foe, desperate, tries to heal Riss, but his magic doesn't work, and he doesn't have any other spell capable of healing that wound. Rid is on the verge of death, while Hill uses the Origin of Light to cause a great explosion, but is surprised to see that it still doesn't harm him. Fio receives a notification informing him that he learned the Origin of Light and Darkness, and angry, he lays Riss down and swears to Hilla that he is going to turn off her lights. Foe remembers all the moments he has lived with Riss, and angry, his power goes to Yamyeon when he rewinds Riss's time to the point of healing her wounds. She wonders how the hell a simple human can be capable of rewinding time with magic, but when she tries to say something, Foe hits her with a right hook, making her bleed. She feels indignant that a disgusting human is harming her, who dominates the world's magic. But Fio just ignores her words, and with a cold and Machiavellian look, he orders her to shut up. She, desperate, uses the Origin of Darkness, but Foe nullifies it and lifts her by the head, while Hilla uses her evaluation ability to measure his power. Shocked to discover that he has infinite abilities, Foe continues beating her mercilessly, while for her part, Riss finally wakes up and is surprised to see that her body has no scratches. Val Rosa mentions to her that it must be thanks to Fleo's magic, but just then, they observe him where they see how he is giving Hilla a beastly beating. Riss is delighted to see how relentless her darling became for her. However, that makes her remember the moment of their fight, where Fio let her know that he doesn't like to fight and that he doesn't want to kill anyone who has surrendered. She understands that he is only fighting for her, but he isn't doing it because he likes it. Fio, for his part, after the super beating he gave Jilla, grabs her by the neck to finish her off, to which she, panicking, begs him to please forgive her. However, Fleo refuses because she hurt Riss, and when he is about to send her to St. Peter, Riss intervenes and asks him to please stop. Seeing his furious expression makes her understand how fortunate she is. At that moment, he forgave her because he didn't want to kill anyone who had surrendered, and she doesn't want to see him lose his kindness because of her. Freo takes her face and tells her that she feels very warm, besides feeling grateful that she is safe. On the other hand, The princess teleports to the region where Frio is with the help of some mages, although she apologizes to them for making them use their teleportation magic despite not having much magic. But they ask her to calm down because they know her purpose is very important, and if they had even more magic, they would accompany her to the next city. The princess informs her soldiers that they must prioritize the safety of the mages and also that they will have to ask all the citizens if they want to find the true hero. However, just then the sacrifice caller disappears, leaving everyone surprised because that means the genie couldn't fulfill its wish. On the other hand, the castle guards order the hero to come out of his hiding place, while his assistant informs him that if they capture them, they will end up executed. He feels frustrated because the genie didn't fulfill his wish, but just then, a voice is surprised to hear of the genie's failure. A shadow enters his assistant's body, beginning to possess her, and mentions that thanks to the genie's failure, she can finally come to the surface. She changes the assistant's and the hero's clothing, and the hero, without understanding, asks her if she always knew how to use magic, something that she ignores his question and lets him know that she is Damalinas, the great dark mage, and she will be the one to grant him the power he longed for from the genie. Just then an earthquake occurs and the hero, transformed into a monster, destroys the castle walls. Damalina laughs and tells him that he looks much better than with the idiot face he had before. They begin to rise to the surface to carry out a divine judgment on the imbecile nobles who had sealed her in the past. Upon leaving, she notices a teleportation magic circle, but she doesn't plan to let the members of the royalty who sealed her in the past escape. That includes their descendants. For his part, Theo, with his magic, heals Hilla's wounds. Upon waking up, he asks if she is okay, but she, in panic, begs him to please forgive her. After a while, she asks how it is that she is unharmed, to which Fo replies that it's because Riss is safe. B. Rosa asks him what they should do with her when the knights and the city's forces can't do anything. Fleo thinks it would be a good idea to return her to the castle and seal her again, while she is surprised and asks how he knew that. Theo replies that for some reason he now has access to more spells and wanted to know the reason why she was attacking them. So he entered her head to discover the truth and was able to discover that it was the hero's fault. Taya is surprised to realize that he can use a magic that only she could use in the past. He mentions to her that she is a genie that grants wishes at a very high cost, but if he returns her to the castle, the same story could repeat itself. So Riss quickly proposes a better idea, which is for her to become a servant of her dear husband. Theo tries to stop her, but Riss replies that she knows very well that he doesn't want to have a servant, but since they can't trust the castle, it's better to have her close to be able to watch her. Besides, a powerful genie like her in the pack would increase their prestige a lot more. Fo mentions to her that her persuasion skills have improved a lot, but her thoughts are still slipping out. Embarrassed, she says that strength isn't everything, and it would be very good to have a very strong pack, although Theo asks her if she is sure, since after all this was the one who hurt her. R feels very frustrated, but she understands that it is due to her own lack of strength. And now, with no other remedy, if it doesn't affect her, it wouldn't make sense for Fo to continue being angry with Hylia, so he offers her his hand and mentions that if she promises not to kill anyone again and takes his hand, he is willing to forgive her for what she did. While she is moved because humans are reluctant to let go of hatred and their obsessions, and are capable of sacrificing others for their own desires. However, that man is different. She addresses Theo as the great supreme Fleo and swears to him that her body and all her power now belong to him. Fleo laments having taken it all so far, although Gia replies that he shouldn't apologize, while she wonders why she gets so excited remembering Fleo's cold look, although it's very clear that she is going to be the masochist of the group. Riss, angry, asks her what the hell she is thinking, although she says she isn't thinking about anything, but R knows very well that she is thinking about dirty things because her face is red. Fleo observes that the city was left in ruins, so he plans to use the power to rewind time and return it to its original state. However, Gia stops him and asks him to please avoid using that magic again, since she controls people's time in a certain area, and discrepancies inside and outside the zone can cause unforeseen accidents. While she uses it, she can reduce the application zone to just an individual, but they are not spells that a human should cast. Fo asks her the reason why he can use it then, to which Gia replies that as a supreme being, his statistics say he has infinite abilities, and with infinite abilities he can use a magic called Epiphany, which only those who have the title of Transcendent can use. In practical terms, and so you understand, when someone uses a spell on Frio, he manages to learn all the spells associated with that person. That's why, when she attacked him with her magic, he was able to acquire the magic that only genies possess. Hija warns him that temporal magic carries problems, and that's why she prefers he avoid using it. Frio accepts her request and decides to use Repair to fix the entire city, while Riss watches him a little blushed and somewhat downcast. After a while, they return home where she is introduced to the rest of the girls, who are in panic to see that genies really exist. First it was the Dark Lord, and now it's a damned genie. Besides, Theo says it as if he had adopted a stray cat. Just then, B. Rosa informs her that her room is ready, but Bailey jumps on her and asks if she thinks it's okay for them all to live with a genie, but she lets her know that as long as Fleo is by her side, everything will be very well. Fly Rosa takes her to her room, and after a while, Fo remembers the punch he gave Jill. B. Rosa asks him if he's okay, but he replies that he was just thinking about his things and apologizes to her because she surely was very scared because of him. Although she replies that it's not like that. He feels somewhat frustrated because despite having a lot of power, he has no idea how to use it. To which Brosa replies that although she doesn't possess his same strength, she asks herself the same question. She strives to become much stronger, but she no longer has an enemy to wield her sword against. Who she thought was her enemy is not, and who were her allies no longer are. Surely if she hadn't met them, she wouldn't be questioning it, but she is very grateful to them because they made her realize that what she believed was obvious wasn't so much. After that, Fleo enters his room and asks Riss to rest because she had a very difficult day, although she continues to be downcast and Fleo asks her what's wrong. She takes his arm and pins him against the bed while asking him if he plans to return to his world. Rio asks her why she says that, and she replies that Hilla mentioned that when any type of magic is used on him, he learns it and everything associated with it, and now that he can use a genie's magic, he could possibly return to his world, and she begs him that if he does, please take her with him because she wants to be by his side, wherever he goes. The only thing she wants is for him not to abandon her. Theo, surprised, replies that he doesn't plan to return because the world he comes from would be a hard world for her, and he doesn't plan to abandon her to live in it. And this hunk pulls a Romeo and asks her if she would like to be his wife for real, because that day when he thought he might lose her, he was as scared as never before and felt very broken inside, so he couldn't control himself. He is aware that he told her they would pretend to be a couple, but he can no longer imagine a life without her. Although Riss lets him know that for her, it has never been a farce, because she has always been his wife. She tells him that she was only taught to fight and lead a pack, but upon meeting him, she discovered that there is a lot she can feel. These two remain silent and finally share a kiss. A Luke Riss reminds him that he once told her that he changed his appearance upon leaving the castle, but there is no longer a reason to hide his real form. However, Fo replies that Theo is his identity in that world, and as long as she knows who he is, his old name and appearance will remain in the past. He kisses her again, but just at that moment, when they were finally going to get disrespectful, they are interrupted by Hill. Well, actually, she was always standing there and watching them from the moment they sat on the bed. And the guys are embarrassed, but Jillia lets them know that her job is to watch over her dear, supreme being at all times. Theo forbids her from spying on them because it's very wrong to invade someone's privacy, although Hilla replies that he has nothing to hide because mating is something very natural. And while these two put on their show in their room, the girls enjoy it all. Brosa covers Bolano's ears so she doesn't lose her innocence, although she replies that she is no longer a child, while Judd tells the guys that then she will become invisible so as not to bother them while she watches them.